Western Europe saw its hottest June on record, and last month was the third warmest June globally. That's according to a new report from the European Copernicus Climate Service. It's one of the main global climate data providers. This comes as the world is experiencing extreme weather. Heavy rain caused flash flooding in the US state of New Mexico. One house was swept away. A man and 2 children died. It follows devastating floods in Texas on Friday. 170 people are still missing and more than 100 are known to have died. And in Europe, more than 100 people have been injured in a wildfire that's reached the outskirts of Marseille, France's second largest city. At least 400 people were evacuated from their homes. Tourists have had to adapt to the heat too. In Greece, the much-visited Acropolis was empty on Thursday after heat forced a temporary closure. Separate research conducted by Imperial College London found that the recent record-breaking heatwave experienced across European cities in June and July led to the deaths of around 2,300 people. Of those deaths, 1,500 were a result of climate change increasing the heat by 1.4 degrees Celsius. Well, the study looked at 12 cities, including London, Milan, Barcelona and Madrid. And we can cross over live to Madrid to speak to my colleague, Guy Hedgecoe, who joins us from this city, which you yourself, Guy, witnessed firsthand sweltering temperatures. Just talk us through what's happening.
Well, that's right. Just a few days ago, we had a heat wave that was sweeping the entire country, creating temperatures of into the low 40s Celsius in some parts of the country, certainly in the south and in the northeast. Now, the heat wave has abated somewhat, but we have got wildfires at the moment in the northeast, in the Catalonia region, in the province of Tarragona. Now, these wildfires have been burning since the beginning of the week. They've already burnt 3,300 hectares. Half of that land which has been burned is a natural park. So it's caused a great deal of damage already. But we have been told that this fire has stabilized at the moment. That was the latest we heard. That doesn't mean it's necessarily under control. Certainly doesn't mean it's been extinguished. But the rapid spread of the fire does seem to have been halted. 18,000 people were confined to their homes yesterday, told not to leave their homes because of the fire. That restriction has been lifted slightly. So firefighters are optimistic, but a lot's going to depend on a storm this afternoon and how the wind and the rain behaves during that storm, which is due in a couple of hours.
So as we await that storm in neighbouring France, of course, Marseille, we already mentioned there are fires there as well. A lot of concern as to the situation on the ground there too.
Yes, and yesterday we saw that the airport in Marseille was closed down for most of the day, causing enormous disruption. The fire has come extremely close to the city, and more than 100 people injured, including police officers and firefighters as well. Now, the mayor of Marseille has said that he believes that the fire is decreasing. So there seems to be some optimism there. That things could come under control. But again, that fire is going to depend a great deal on the conditions. It's going to depend on the wind and any rain that there might be as well. So really, the future of that fire as well will depend on the weather.
Guy, as always, thank you so much for bringing us up to date with the situation in France as well as in Spain. Guy Hedgecoe there speaking to us from Madrid. Well, we can also get up to date with our climate and science correspondent, Georgina Ranard, to find out more about those findings on the link, Georgina, between climate change and increased heat-related deaths in Europe. The EU's climate change service, Copernicus, saying that we're seeing record temperatures across Western Europe for June.
Yes, well, as you said, Copernicus have now said that June was one of the hottest Junes on record. And what they've done in this analysis is come to the conclusion that the temperatures, this heat wave in much of Europe in June, was around 4 degrees Celsius hotter than it would have been without climate change. And they can come to this conclusion by looking at historical data on temperatures and how many emissions we have put into the atmosphere through burning fossil fuels. And then they look at the temperatures we're seeing now and they reach this figure of 4 degrees. But if you look at the report, it also talks about days of heat stress. Those are days when the temperatures were above 38 degrees. We saw that in Madrid, in France, in parts of Italy. And there were above average number of those heat stress days, which of course are very unpleasant to experience and also can be dangerous for our health, particularly for people with health conditions, people who are older and young children. They also talked about an above average number of tropical nights. These are nights when the temperatures do not fall below 20 degrees Celsius. And again, we know that is incredibly difficult to sleep and it's hard to get rest, and all of that puts lots of pressure on our bodies. And they're saying this is because of those increased global temperatures linked to climate change.
And and when those temperatures just don't get any cooler during the night, that research, of course, that report comes as we've got separate research from Imperial College London, which is linking 1,500 deaths to climate change. So a really important, another important study when it comes to this area.
Yes, absolutely. I should say that these figures are an estimate. So the researchers in London have looked at past heat waves and how many excess deaths were reported then, and they've looked at models and they've come to this number. So it's not necessarily based on the numbers of reported deaths to, say, hospitals, although we did see reports of people having died in those temperatures. 2 men died on a beach in Italy, and very sadly a young girl died in Paris from those temperatures. But when you talk to scientists and you ask them, how surprising is this news? How surprising is these excess deaths estimates and the 4 degrees additional warming from climate change? Many of them say they're not surprised by this. And you know, the more, if I call them up, I can sometimes detect a sense of frustration because they say they've been warning about this for a long time.
Yes, you do sense that, don't you? Georgina, as always, thank you so much for just talking us through those 2 reports. Georgina Ranard, our climate and science correspondent there. We do have much more on our website as well.